Food. We need it for our survival as a human race, and we love it so much that we put it in our favorite game, Minecraft. But Minecraft's food has changed a lot over the years. Where once all we had were mushrooms and apples to sate our hunger, now we can feast on the flesh of the undead, a purple fruit that makes you phase across the cosmic plane, and an apple made of literal gold infused with the healing powers of the gods. So, what happened? In today's episode of Minecraft Uncovered, we're gonna look at the history of Minecraft's food. But first, we got a sponsor. Welcome to Opera GX, the first and as far as I know only gaming web browser. No other browser is as customizable as Opera GX, with special themes and wallpapers, including animated ones specifically for Minecraft, along with an option for complete control over the look of the browser. But hey, every browser has themes and wallpapers nowadays, so besides the animated ones, what makes Opera GX unique? Well, it's quite a lot actually. For example, how about the GX control feature, which helps you limit CPU and RAM usage in your browser to keep Minecraft running smoothly while you're following a tutorial or looking up crafting recipes, cause God knows I'm not remembering all this. There's also a dedicated GX music player that lets you log into Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube Music right from your sidebar, and automatically pauses if you listen to something else. But on top of all of that, Opera GX is launching a brand new Minecraft server along with their Discord, with game modes like Bed Wars, Sky Wars, and Murder Mystery all in one. It'll be directly linked to the Discord server where you can join competitions, giveaways, and events that'll earn you coins for cosmetics. So what are you waiting for? Seriously, this thing is awesome and I've used Opera for like 6 years now. At least give it a try. You can download Opera GX completely free, of course, with the link on screen and in the description. Now, back to the video. When Minecraft was first dreamt up back in the middle of 2009, food wasn't really a concern. As you may know, Minecraft started off with creative mode only. There was no survival, there was no health, there was no hunger, and therefore there was no food, just a bunch of blocks to place. But about a month into the game's life, as it began to grow, a small community from the TIG source forum it launched on, Notch revealed his future plans to develop Minecraft into something completely new. Now, not all of these ideas did end up coming to life. In fact, most didn't. But one of them not only made it into the game, it became the game for a year and has since taken over. Of course, I'm talking about survival mode. The idea for survival was quite basic at this point, since it was basically just some cool stuff Notch thought of on the spot and he didn't really plan anything out. But among the concepts for survival, he brainstormed waves and waves of monsters that will slowly chip away at your health over time. To keep yourself from dying at the hands of the murderous mobs that would haunt your world, your only option was to hunt or farm for food. At the time, mobs weren't even part of the game yet, aside from humans. Again, it was essentially a Lego simulator. They didn't need animals to hunt or monsters to hunt you. But almost 3 months later, survival had finally come around in the form of a public test. And among the additions were zombies, skeletons, creepers, and pigs for some reason. They didn't actually do anything for a few months, so I'm not sure why they were even there. But hey, we had survival, we had enemies, we had health, so we needed healing. And this is where the culinary perfection of Minecraft got its start, with brown mushrooms. Yeah, the complexity of dishes here was impeccable, about as intricate as a struggling college student's pantry, but it worked. There was actually 2 kinds of mushrooms added, brown and red, but the red ones would hurt you, so they were literally worse than useless. Brown mushrooms, on the other hand, would help to heal you up, and could be found scattered throughout the world or dropped by pigs, so I guess I lied. Pigs did have a use, it just didn't make any sense. Now, at this point, hunger was not a thing. Notch never envisioned it back when he was conceptualizing survival, so the mushroom basically functioned like mushroom stew does on modern PvP servers, where you right-click it to instantly heal a chunk of your health. But because of this simple system, there wasn't really much need to add more food. If mushrooms could heal you, why ever use anything else, right? You didn't need to worry about farming or hunting if healing was readily available throughout your world, and you didn't need to try different foods if there weren't any special effects like saturation or regen from certain items. So for months, mushrooms were all we had. But with the arrival of the in-dev phase of Minecraft's development, things started to speed up again. When version 0.31 released, along with some pretty important things like, I don't know, crafting, we also received our first new food: apples. They were just cosmetic for the first 10 days, but soon they did become an actually viable food source, healing 2 hearts, which was less than the mushrooms, so they were pretty much worthless. But don't worry, mushrooms just stopped being edible right after. Problem solved. They did eventually make them useful with the mushroom stew that was added at the end of January 2010 though, so that was the problem actually solved. February brought wheat and bread at first, and later on, pigs were given a purpose with the addition of pork chops, which could be cooked with the brand new furnace to make a cooked pork chop. When Minecraft entered InfDev development a week later, new food stopped being added to the game for quite a while, with one very important exception: the golden apple. Back in 2010, golden apples functioned a lot differently than they do today, or even back in the PvP versions like 1.7 and 1.8. Because hunger wasn't a thing, golden apples were just an instant full heal, 10 hearts per apple, but they were pricey, needing 8 blocks of gold to make just 1. At this point, golden apples were a fun thing to have, but they weren't too useful yet. That would come later, and we'll talk about it when it matters. For now, we quickly move through alpha with pumpkins, but not pumpkin seeds, eggs, but you couldn't eat them, milk, but you couldn't drink it, and fish that were actually useful, but that's 3 strikes already, so it doesn't matter. After over a year of development, Minecraft's cuisine had come a long way, but it was still very basic. Almost everything was super basic foods that you could get from farming, and there wasn't any more complex foods you could craft with the exceptions of mushroom stew and the golden apple and bread if you count that, I guess. Even the food we did have was often pretty useless. Golden apples were way too expensive, milk did nothing, pumpkins also did nothing and couldn't be planted either, eggs spawned chickens but you couldn't eat them and chickens didn't drop food, so really all you had was fish, apples, bread, and mushroom stew. No one said Minecraft was supposed to be Papa's Pizzeria Survival Edition, but it wouldn't be unreasonable to expect something a little more elaborate. Fortunately, Mojang noticed this too, and they got to work. Heading into Minecraft's beta testing, everything was about to change. Minecraft, the Adventure Update. In my opinion, the most important update that the game has ever received, and one that I've talked about on more than one occasion because it was vital to the development of the game. It spanned across 2 versions, the first being Beta 1.8 and the second being Minecraft 1.0, the official release. And this update was massive. Just to name a very small selection of changes, we got mushrooms, enderman, cave spiders, silverfish, blazes, experience, villages, flying, sprinting, brewing, enchanting at the end dimension. Like, these are essential to modern Minecraft, and they were all added in just one update over the course of 2 versions. But along with these, as well as many new blocks and items, the beta half of the update brought major changes to Minecraft's food and completely revolutionized the health system with the addition of a hunger bar. Instant healing was no longer a thing, since instant health potions weren't added until later in the update. Instead, they were replaced with a hunger system. The more energy you used up by moving around, mining, or fighting, the quicker your hunger bar would drain until first you wouldn't be able to heal, then you'd lose sprinting, and eventually you would begin to starve. To get your player back into good condition, you would have to eat food to fill your hunger bar to the top, which would keep you alive for long enough to scavenge for some more food and keep playing. But now, the food system could be far more complex. Certain foods could be much more common and easy to grow, like carrots and potatoes, but they wouldn't be quite as good as hunting for meat, which pushes you out into the open and keeps you from hiding in a hill somewhere, or even just crafting some golden apples that would instantly fill half your hunger bar and slowly heal you. And just to emphasize this, Mojang added tons of new foods into the game. Now you could hunt for chicken and beef, you could stave off hunger with rotten flesh at the cost of increased hunger later on, and you could grow melons and pumpkins in your own home with the new seeds they added. But if you couldn't find seeds yourself, don't worry. Mojang was nice enough to add villager farms for you to take from freely. Don't worry about starving the villagers, they can just photosynthesize and swallow some sunlight and they'll be good. Later, when Minecraft entered 1.0 and finished the adventure update, the new mushroom mob could even be milked for mushroom stew or sheared for the mushrooms themselves. Suddenly, the food system had expanded from chew pork don't die to pick up plants for a quick snack, but make sure you go go hunting for meat when you're very hungry. Don't forget to cook the meat or it won't be as good, and it could even poison you. You'll want to start a farm at home with some of the easier crops to grow, and it might be a smart idea to breed mushrooms or other animals for an easier food source without having to waste time and energy out in the wild. The hunger aspect of Minecraft survival was now based on strategy and thinking, not just mindless pig slaughter and hoping you can find some apples under a rotting tree. The food system was actually pretty impressive and well thought out, and for the next few years it would remain largely the same without any issues, only adding some more fish and meat as new mobs were added to the game. But that wasn't quite the end of it. In 2016, 4.5 years later, Minecraft would receive one of the most controversial updates of any game in history. And along with it, food would change for one last time. 1.9. The number alone holds the power to incite a war. For 6 years now, it's led to countless fights and debates on whether it's a gift from the gods or the worst thing to happen to humanity. And if you've watched my channel before, you're probably well aware of what I mean. In case you aren't, Minecraft 1.9 was known as the Combat Update. For nearly 2 years, players waited for what was to be an amazing, revolutionary update bringing more complexity and fun to the basic Mindman combat of the early 2010s. This was and is the longest that players have had to wait for a major update to the game, with 545 days passing between the release of 1.8 and the new update, and the entirety of 2015 coming and going without a single update to the game. The hype and excitement for Minecraft 1.9 had built higher than the Burj Khalifa, and by that point it was going to be impossible to meet the expectations of the community. But nobody could have expected just how spectacularly this update failed. To this day, it's the most controversial update in the game's history, and in fact, it's so disliked that millions of players refuse to update out of spite, protest, and displeasure. See, 1.9 did revolutionize combat, just like players had wanted, but it was too much. It was too different. It strayed so wildly from the Minecraft PvP formula that it was foreign and strange to the veterans of the game. Fighting became slow because of speed restrictions. Ridiculous weapon balancing made stone axes more powerful than diamond swords. Shields appeared in lieu of sword blocking, and Mojang finally unlocked Steve's left hand for dual wielding. But outside of the confusing, complicated, or often nonsensical changes to PvP, 1.9 also had some pretty big changes outside of the realm of combat. For one, the end was largely revamped with end cities, end ships, dragon breath, shulkers, and the famous elytra. And along with this, we received an odd change to the food of Minecraft in the form of a peculiar item called chorus fruit. The fruit grew on new plants found in the end, these weird spindly purple trees made of chorus plants and flowers. But as you might imagine, a fruit that grows in the end is going to be a bit unique. It could be eaten and filled a fifth of your hunger bar, unlike some other special plants like glistering melon or netherwort, but it had a side effect. Every time you ate it, you would teleport a few blocks away. On top of that, you could smelt the fruit to make popped chorus fruit, which could then be turned into the purple building blocks you see in all the Ends buildings. Meaning that, yeah, End cities are basically the Minecraft equivalent of building your house out of toasted coconut. All in all, it was pretty interesting and pretty fun to play around with, and chorus fruit has actually become really useful, even in competitive multiplayer, since you can use it to teleport through walls into bases. But chorus fruit was surprisingly not the only change made to Minecraft's cuisine here in 1.9, and this takes us back to combat. Since the humble beginnings of Minecraft PvP, one food has reigned supreme over them all: the enchanted golden apple. I mean, normal golden apples are more common, steak is the most common food on PvP servers, and there's an entire dueling mode dedicated to mushroom stew, but yeah, enchanted golden apple, sure. They've long been the most powerful healing source in the game, providing regeneration 5 and absorption for 30 seconds, as well as resistance and fire resistance for 5 minutes. But all this was at a cost. Such a heavenly item, appropriately nicknamed a god apple, would come at a steep price, which in this case was 8 blocks of gold. In a typical survival world, you would only ever be able to craft 2 or 3 if you even chose to, and in PvP modes like UHC, you'd be lucky to get even 1. But 1.9 changed all of that for the worse. Just one update after a new achievement was added for crafting a god apple, the ability to do so disappeared from the game. Now, the rare item was restricted to chests in dungeons, temples, and mineshafts. On top of that, the effects of the god apple were changed around for no apparent reason. The regeneration was cut from level 5 to level 2 and was 10 seconds shorter, but the absorption was bumped up to level 4 for even more extra hearts. Oddly enough, this change wasn't reflected on any other version of Minecraft. Console editions work on the same mechanics as God Apples did before 1.9, and Bedrock Edition has an even more overpowered hybrid of the Regeneration 5 from the early days, as well as the Absorption 4 from the 1.9 update. The change wasn't received very well, which might be why, but Mojang is rarely one to back down from a weird change just because players didn't like it. So for the last few years, God Apples have slowly fallen further and further out of relevance. There was one last change to 1.9 to speak of though, but it wasn't quite as revolutionary as the previous two. Just surprising that it wasn't already added. 1.9 brought Beetroot to Minecraft Java Edition, after it had already been a major food in Pocket Edition for over 2 years. Nothing was new or special about it. It was exactly the same as in the mobile version of the game, they just actually got around to adding it. And with that, we've reached the end. Foods have appeared in the days since, with honey, suspicious stew, dried kelp, and a few berries popping up. But nothing would change the game as radically as the inception of food in InDev, the hunger system of Beta, or the supernatural snacks of 1.9. The future may hold more for the aspiring chefs of our favorite block game, but today, this is where our story comes to a close. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and also hope this wasn't too weird of a topic to cover. It's definitely a bit of an odd subject to make a video about, but I had the idea at like 1 AM last month, and then the next day someone commented the same idea as a suggestion, and I took it as a sign that a Minecraft food video was in my destiny. But there's not much else to say other than join my Discord if you want for a decent community, lots of joking around, and some pretty interesting research. And you can also keep up to date with any videos I'm working on, and even some exclusive content that I only post there. But that's really about it though, so again, I hope you all enjoyed, thank you for watching, and have a good one. I'm out.